My name is Joey Benedek. I'm one of the VPs of product here at Litera. I actually run product for two of our product lines, the workflow product line and the drafting product line. I had joined Litera as part of the Kira acquisition, so that was back in 2021. So I've been around and part of bringing legal kind of AI into the experiences for several years now. I think what excites me or interests me about working in this space ultimately is, look, all the technology that we do enables all these great scenarios, and that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, I think it's all about reducing the number of frustrations that lawyers have in the work that they do. And it's like, I keep hearing things like, oh, they spend so much time searching, finding, context switching, and all those types of things. And at the end of the day, they're really, it's about giving them the time to spend working on the actual lawyer work. And that's what gets me excited. I know we're talking about Lito today, and that's a huge part of what Lito is all about. Yeah, it's funny. It seems like every 6 months there's like a new technology that comes out that's going to change the landscape, right? I think agentic AI actually does have, the potential for doing that, right? So, the idea of automating a whole bunch of steps at once, I think I look back on the technology that, in this space over the years, right? We started with machine learning. Like, oh, you can extract stuff and plop it in front of the lawyer. And now they got to go in and find the answer to the questions that they're looking for. And then comes generative AI came along, right? And it's all like, oh, we're going to give you the answer, right? And so this idea that the next step where we could do multiple steps of a solution on behalf of the person is a great goal to go for. I think anytime we start a development or a design process, we always start with a set of principles. And one of the key ones that we've got is that at the end of the day, the lawyer needs to be in control. They need to own the output. And if you can actually automate a bunch of steps and still allow the lawyer to be in control of the situation, I think that's a huge opportunity for everybody. It's not magic, though. So we got to do that part of it, making sure the lawyer is ultimately in control. But if you can do those two things at the same time, it's going to be very powerful. Ultimately, the vision is the idea that your data is not boxed into the place where where it was created. So we've got all these different individual applications like Foundation or Compare or whatever it may be that we're going to talk about today. But at the end of the day, the data that's generated in those apps are ultimately getting used in other places. Where do lawyers do most of their work? They do it in Word, they do it in Outlook, right? And the idea with Lito is that we can go take the data in all those other applications and put them where the lawyer is doing the work in Word and Outlook and places like that when they have the context, right, as well to add to the fact of what data you're going to put into it. So ultimately the goal here for Lito, and by the way, for Lito, you can log into Lito on a browser. If you wanted to throw a bunch of documents into Lito and, and do analysis in a grid and do your deal point studies and do comparisons and risk and mitigation, you could do all that stuff. But at the end of the day, when you are sitting in Word doing your work, Lito should be there with the data from all those applications available to you. Yeah, this is an important question, right? Because I think everybody in the industry is, we're all building, all the different vendors, we're all building on the same foundational models. I mean, we have different prompts and different training that we can do to it, sure, but at the end of the day, it's all the same foundational models. And so how do we differentiate? You differentiate a couple different ways. One, in terms of the user experience, which we're absolutely doing with the design work that we do. But there's also a set of things that Litera has. I mean, Litera's been building from the ground up or buying and integrating, legal technology for like 25 plus years. There's a set of things that nobody else has. For example, Compare, right? Like nobody has that level of quality and accuracy of the redlining. Or Foundation, right, is another one, right? That data, your firm's data available. Nobody has those things. Lito, that is going to be a big differentiating part for Lito, where we integrate all that other stuff that's happening in your firm into Lito itself and that experience. Yeah, so I've been talking about this as a lawyer-led design, right? So, like I said earlier, I joined Litera as part of the acquisition of Kira. Kira has been around since 2011, right? We were building artificial intelligence into legal back in as early as 2015. And the way we did that is we actually established a team of lawyers that we call legal knowledge engineers. They're ex-big law lawyers. They know exactly what the law is all about. They know about the experience that the lawyer goes through and all those things. And we employed them to actually train the models, the existing models you have in Kira today. And that's what ended up making Kira kind of industry leader when it comes to contract review and due diligence and stuff like that. And so we've applied the same model. We've taken the legal knowledge engineering organization team, we've grown it exponentially. And now it's being applied and working not just in Kira and all the other foundational products, but it's also a huge part of driving Lito. And it's not just about training AI, right? The important thing about the legal knowledge engineers is that they actually know what it looks like to work inside of a firm. They know what the workflow is for a lawyer in this use case and that use case. And so instead of guessing or whatever it is, we start with the legal knowledge engineers, lawyer-led design. That's how we start the process, and then of course we go and we collaborate with other firms, to really understand their unique aspects to that workflow, right? But lawyer-led design is really how I talk about it, right? And again, it's not even just the design flow; it's also things like what's important to a law firm, accuracy, what's important to them, security. All those things have been a big part of our motivation and our principles from the beginning. Kira ultimately is a fantastic tool for doing very specific type of work, which is contract review, right? And it's great at contract review, in particular due diligence. If you need to do a large scale, you need the rigor. Let's say you need multiple practice areas contributing, multiple people, a collaborative workflow. We're handing the baton off across people. You need project management because there's so many things to do and people to do it with. You're not going to beat Kira. Nobody's going to beat Kira at that when it comes to contract review and due diligence. Lito is a little bit broader, right? Lito will do things beyond contract review or contract analysis. You'll still be able to go, and both products will have upload your documents, you get your grid, you do your analysis. Both of them will have that. But Lito's also going to allow you to compare. Lito's also going to allow you to do things like deal point comparisons. Lito's also going to do risk and mitigation types of work, or pull from foundation and tell you, where and how you did deals in the past with these types of customers, et cetera, et cetera. So Lito's just going to be broader. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you're going to be able to work with them in tandem, right? Kira, which has traditional artificial intelligence everybody knows about, we've been building on top of it a ton of generative AI. We're going to have, in addition to our existing smart fields and models, we're going to have our generative smart fields on top. You can chat with your documents. You can do all that summarization type of work. But at some point, you may be sitting there doing all that work, and you want to go and do some contextual search around something else, something that triggers you, you could pop out to Lito and do that research over there. So you can do them. They have their individual strengths, but they're definitely both tools that you're going to want to have in your arsenal, so to speak. Yeah, so we're going to integrate those, right? So you get the benefit of those things inside. But in terms of how they influence our, kind of design process, et cetera, there's a bunch of things you learn from doing something for 25 years, right? And Compare is one of the earliest products that we did have. So, for example, when for Compare to be as good as it is, there's a ton of work that goes into around accuracy. There's a ton of work that goes into polish. We just released yet another new version of our engine, the back engine from Compare, just the last couple of months, right? So we're constantly honing that skill and making great. And Litera used to be very siloed, but as you see, all of our experiences are starting to merge in Word, in Outlook, in the web, and the teams are starting to merge as well. So all that kind of level of accuracy and level of excellence that you expect on the output of something is rubbing off on everybody, right? Something like Foundation, right? We really learned how to structure data, not just structure it in such a way that a lawyer can read it and take a look at it and understand it, but also how you structure data on the back end so that we can extract it and use it in other places. So there's a bunch of learning that we've got over the years. Kira's another one, right? In terms of the level of quality and the accuracy and the percentage, of getting things right. That's just the bar that we live by, and all those things rub off on the way you do everything. Lito's a legal AI agent that takes all this data and tooling that Litera has been building for the last 25 years, and basically turns that data into action, for drafting workflows. I think that's probably how I'd cobble together a sentence. This one is easy. It's data everywhere, right? I think I was saying at one point earlier, we have all these tools, we're individual vertical tools, and that's where the data gets created, that's where the data gets built. That's totally fine. Those things are going to continue to happen. But at the end of the day, when the lawyer sits down to do their work, they shouldn't have to context switch out, go to something to go get the thing, come back, and go back into the place that they're working, right? They should be able to have that stuff at their fingertips where they are, whatever that is. And we're starting with Word and Outlook, but that is the vision, right? Your data goes where you need it. Definitely that's a thing that we're gunning for. Lito helps me raise the bar by making sure that I've got the data that I need so that I know that I've got the confidence that I'm producing the right material. Yeah, I think it comes back to this concept of Lido ultimately being your this the kind of shepherd, right, of bringing you around, bringing the stuff to you that you need. And with Latera One, we're bringing more and more of our products together. Like I was saying earlier, it's less about vertical experiences. Those will all still exist, but it's less about being stuck in vertical experiences, and it's more about wherever you're working, the data comes to you. And I think that's really what Lido ultimately is going to do for Latera One. I could also argue there's also a user experience angle to it, right? I think we're seeing, if you look back in history of like even the internet, we all started off with things like, yahoo.com, which was a big portal and you had to click on everything together. And then Google came along and you just type into a single box and everything came back to you. We're seeing a similar type of experience today. I have been very, very vocal that I don't want to just smack chatbots onto everything and call it a day. Look at us, we have a chatbot. It's not about that. It's about contextual awareness of what is on the screen that you're working on, the data that's coming in from these other verticals. But at the end of the day, a natural language interaction is pretty powerful. And I think we're seeing people wanting that more and more. So that's another thing that Lito will bring to Latera One. Look, adoption is hard because I've always done stuff a certain way. And so, if I've got to go learn something new, it has to be better, right? It has to make life better for me. And I think the thing about a natural interaction model, so I don't have to go and understand or click, 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 click. I can just go and ask and type and, and put queries in. It lowers the barrier to entry an awful lot. And I'm used to chatting with these things. We're seeing the proliferation of chatting interfaces all over the place. And the more and more people get comfortable with their interaction with their technology, the more likely they are to adopt. So anytime you're about to make people change the way they behave, it better be better. And I think Lito is the thing that's going to bring that to Latera One and to help with adoption ultimately of these experiences.